In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 college basketball games happening on March 23, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 college basketball games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Connecticut versus Florida. The NCAA tournament presses forward with an intense second-round showdown in the West region on Sunday afternoon, featuring the 8th-seeded Connecticut Huskies facing off against the top-seeded Florida Gators. The game is set to take place in Raleigh, promising plenty of drama as these two programs battle for a spot in the Sweet 16. Connecticut earned their place in this round by taking care of business against 9th-seeded Oklahoma, securing a 67-59 victory. The Huskies entered that contest as 6-point favorites and managed to cover the spread with a solid performance down the stretch. On the other hand, Florida had an easier time in their first-round matchup, dismantling 16th-seeded Norfolk State in a dominant 95-69 win on Friday afternoon. However, despite their convincing victory, the Gators failed to cover the 28.5-point spread set by oddsmakers. Historically, Connecticut has had the upper hand in this matchup, winning 5 of the 6 all-time meetings between the programs. The most recent contest saw the Huskies cruise to a commanding 75-54 road victory on December 7, 2022. The Huskies, who are the 2-time defending national champions, extended their remarkable NCAA tournament win streak to 13 games with their victory over Oklahoma. However, that game was anything but a cakewalk. Connecticut had to grind it out for the full 40 minutes against an Oklahoma squad that was among the weakest Southeastern Conference teams to make the tournament field. This back-and-forth battle was a microcosm of Connecticut's season, as the team has struggled to find consistent offensive rhythm. At times, the Huskies have shown flashes of dominance, but they've also been prone to prolonged scoring droughts. That kind of inconsistency can be a major liability against an opponent as strong and well-rounded as Florida. If the Huskies fail to maintain their offensive efficiency, the talent gap between these teams could become more evident as the game progresses. I've analyzed this Florida squad throughout the season, and the one thing that continues to stand out is their versatility. The Gators can beat you in multiple ways, making them a nightmare matchup for most teams. Their dominance begins in the backcourt, where Will Richard, Walter Clayton Jr., and Elijah Martin form one of the most formidable guard trios in the country. This gives head coach Todd Golden a significant advantage, as Florida's perimeter play could stretch Connecticut's defense thin and create open looks from deep. Given Connecticut's inability to generate defensive pressure, ranking a dismal 282nd in turnovers forced, the Gators will likely look to push the tempo, using quick ball movement and transition offense to create easy scoring opportunities. If Florida can dictate the pace, they'll have a strong chance to pull away early. Florida's strength isn't limited to their backcourt. They are also among the nation's elite when it comes to rebounding, ranking 6th in offensive rebounding percentage. This is an area where they could exploit a major weakness for Connecticut, who sits at 155th in defensive rebounding rate over the last 3 months. Second chance opportunities could be a huge factor in this game, giving Florida additional scoring chances while limiting Connecticut's ability to get out in transition. The Huskies are a strong offensive rebounding team in their own right, but against Florida's imposing front court, anchored by a pair of 7-footers, it will be much tougher for them to generate extra possessions. Beyond rebounding, Florida's big men also have the ability to facilitate offense with their passing and movement, adding another layer of complexity to their attack. Despite coming into this matchup as heavy favorites, Florida has struggled historically against Connecticut. In 5 previous meetings, the Gators have yet to claim a victory, with their most recent defeat coming in 2022. However, the landscape has changed significantly since then. This year's Florida team is far superior to previous versions, coming into this game riding a 7-game winning streak, all against ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Connecticut is not the same dominant force they were last season. having lost several key contributors to the NBA. While Danny Hurley remains one of the premier coaches in college basketball, this Connecticut squad simply doesn't have the depth or firepower to go toe-to-toe with Florida for a full 40 minutes. The Gators are elite at every position and boast one of the deepest rosters in the nation. As our first pick for this matchup, the Florida Gators to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Scoring has been a major theme in the early stages of this NCAA tournament, with plenty of high-powered offenses lighting up the scoreboard. Given the talent on both sides, this game has the potential to follow a similar pattern. Both teams have demonstrated an ability to put points on the board consistently, setting the stage for what could be an exciting, fast-paced battle. For the Huskies, the over has hit in just 4 of their last 10 games, but they have still managed to score at least 65 points in 9 of those matchups. Meanwhile, the Gators have been a high-scoring machine, with the over cashing in 8 of their last 10 contests. During that stretch, Florida has averaged a staggering 91 points per game, making them one of the most prolific offenses in the tournament field. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Baylor versus Duke. The NCAA tournament keeps rolling with a second-round showdown set for Sunday afternoon in Raleigh, where the 9th-seeded Baylor Bears will go head-to-head against the top-seeded Duke Blue Devils in the East region. Baylor managed to edge out 8th-seeded Mississippi State in a tight 75-72 victory during their first-round matchup on Friday afternoon. Despite being a slight 1-point underdog, they pulled off the win. Meanwhile, Duke had no trouble whatsoever in their opening game, completely dismantling 16th-seeded Mount St. Mary's with a dominant 93-49 performance. The Blue Devils easily covered the spread as a massive 32-point favorite. Historically, Duke has had the upper hand in this matchup, having won both previous meetings, including their most recent victory on December 20th, 2023, when they secured a 78-70 win on their home court. Baylor may not have put together the most impressive performance in their first-round win, but they did enough to advance, and that's what matters in March. Now, however, they face a much tougher challenge in Duke. Baylor shot 43.5% from the field in their matchup against Mississippi State, which isn't terrible, but what raises concern is the fact that they allowed Mississippi State to hit 50% of their shots. That kind of defensive lapse won't cut it against a team as talented as Duke. Speaking of the Blue Devils, they took care of business with ease against Mount St. Mary's, and one of the most encouraging signs from that game was how sharp Cooper Flagg looked. His ankle didn't seem to bother him at all, which is great news for Duke heading into this matchup. Looking at the rosters, Baylor certainly has talent, but they have struggled all season to consistently put it all together. One of their standout players, VJ Edgecombe, is expected to be a top pick in the upcoming NBA draft, putting up solid numbers with 15 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. Another key contributor is Norchard Amir, who leads the team with 16 points and 10.7 rebounds per game, making him a crucial piece of their offense. On the other side, Duke is stacked with weapons of their own. Cooper Flagg has been outstanding, averaging 19 points per game, while Con Nupel provides additional scoring punch with 14 points per contest. However, the biggest difference between these two teams isn't on offense, it's on defense. According to Ken Palm rankings, Duke is an elite defensive unit, ranking 4th in adjusted defensive efficiency, while Baylor lags behind at 57th. Duke's defense has been a force all season, holding opponents to just 38.4% shooting from the field, which is one of the best marks in college basketball. While Baylor entered this tournament as a team with the potential to make a deep run, there is simply no team in college basketball that is as balanced and as deep as Duke. The Blue Devils are coming off an absolute demolition job in round 1, and they have the luxury of relying on multiple playmakers, not just 1 or 2 stars. To put it plainly, they have more firepower than Baylor, and it's going to show in this game. One of the scariest things about Duke is that their best player, Cooper Flagg, wasn't even the standout in their first game, which speaks volumes about how loaded this squad really is. This version of Baylor just isn't the same powerhouse that we've seen in past years, and that reality is going to become very clear in this matchup. Sure, the Atlantic Coast Conference as a whole may not have been at its best this season, and that has been reflected in the NCAA tournament results so far, but that doesn't take away from just how dominant Duke has been. If you need proof, look no further than their last game in the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament, where they handled Louisville by 11 points, a team that bears some similarities to Baylor in terms of play style. At the end of the day, it hasn't really mattered who Duke has faced this season. They've been able to impose their will and run up the score against just about anyone, and that trend should continue here. Flag and company are poised for another big performance, and Duke should have little trouble pulling away for a decisive win. At the end of the day, Duke is simply the superior team in this matchup. They have more talent, better depth, and a defense that is vastly superior to Baylor's. As our first pick for this matchup, the Duke Blue Devils to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. While both teams are capable on both ends of the floor, their biggest strength lies in their offensive firepower. Each team averages 77 or more points per game, and after both offenses looked strong in round one, this game has all the makings of another high-scoring affair. Looking at trends, the over has hit in just 4 of Baylor's last 10 games, but it's worth noting that they've scored 70 or more points in 6 of those contests. Meanwhile, Duke has been a far more consistent over team, with the total going over in 7 of their last 10 games. In that stretch, the Blue Devils have topped 80 points in 8 games, including their 93-point outburst in the opening round of this tournament. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Illinois versus Kentucky. The NCAA tournament is heating up, and Sunday brings us a round of 32 showdown in the Midwest region. The number 6 seed Illinois Fighting Illini will face off against the number 3 seed Kentucky Wildcats in a game that could go either way. A spot in the Sweet 16 is on the line, with the winner set to take on either UCLA or Tennessee in the next round. Both teams have had strong seasons, and this matchup promises to be a battle between Illinois' physicality and Kentucky's high-powered offense. Illinois looked sharp in their opening round victory over the Xavier Musketeers, taking control of the game with an impressive 86-73 win. Offensively, they were on fire, knocking down shots at an efficient rate and dominating the boards. The Illini hit 48.3% of their attempts from the field and connected on 12 of their 30 shots from three-point range. They were also flawless from the free throw line, going 1-8 for 1-8. Perhaps the most eye-catching stat from that game was their 40% success rate from beyond the arc, a major improvement for a team that has struggled all year from deep, shooting just 31.4% on the season. However, Kentucky's perimeter defense is much tougher than Xavier's, so if Illinois wants to have another hot shooting night, they'll need to work for it. If they can stay locked in from long range, the Wildcats could have a long and frustrating evening trying to keep up. Kentucky, on the other hand, had little trouble handling Troy in their first-round matchup, cruising to a 76-57 victory while comfortably covering the 11.5-point spread. The Wildcats locked down Troy's shooters, holding them to just 25% from deep. But despite the dominant win, there are some concerns heading into this game. Kentucky lost the rebounding battle 39-38 and managed only 7 offensive boards compared to Troy's 11. That's something Illinois will look to exploit, as they rank 19th in the country in offensive rebounding percentage, while Kentucky sits much lower at 227th. If Illinois can keep up their physical style of play and at least pose a threat from the perimeter, Kentucky might struggle to get stops. Simply put, if the Illini win the battle on the offensive glass, they're in the driver's seat. Kentucky, meanwhile, needs to take advantage of Illinois' weaker perimeter defense to keep pace. From a betting perspective, Kentucky getting the free bucket is tempting because of how dangerous they are when they get rolling on offense. When the Wildcats are clicking, they can beat anyone in the tournament on any given night. That said, I've been high on Illinois from the start, and I had them making a Final Four run before the tournament began. They're healthy, they've got guys who can take over a game, and they have one of the best players in the country in Jacutius leading the charge. This game is likely going to be an up-tempo, high-scoring affair where the team that gets stops late will come out on top. So far this season, Illinois has been the better defensive team, ranking in the top 100 in field goal percentage defense, while Kentucky is all the way down at 325th in scoring defense. Given how this matchup shapes up, I'd rather put my trust in Illinois creating second-chance opportunities than hope for Kentucky to have a lights-out shooting night. I've been backing Illinois for a while now, and if you haven't jumped on board yet, there's still time. As our first pick for this matchup, the Illinois Fighting Illini to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Now, let's talk about the total. While Illinois does have solid defensive numbers when it comes to effective field goal percentage, let's be real, this game is going to see a ton of points. Illinois ranks 17th in adjusted tempo, averaging 71.4 possessions per 40 minutes, while Kentucky is right there with them at 24th with 71. Both teams like to push the pace and get out in transition, and that should make for a fun, fast-paced contest. A good way to gauge how this game might play out is by looking at how both teams fared against Alabama this season. Illinois lost to the Crimson Tide 100-87, while Kentucky went 0-2 against them, falling 102-97 and 96-83. These are two teams that have no problem running up and down the court for the full 40 minutes, and the numbers back that up. Illinois is 17th in adjusted tempo and Kentucky is 25th, with both squads ranking inside the top 15 in adjusted offensive efficiency. Recent scoring trends also point toward a high total. Illinois has put up at least 86 points in 4 of their last 5 games, but they've also given up an average of 84 points over their last 8. Kentucky has scored at least 85 points in 3 of their last 5 games and has allowed an average of 86 points per game in their last 7 against Power 5 opponents. This total is sky high for an NCAA tournament game, but don't be surprised if both teams push into the mid-90 seconds. Even with such an inflated number, I still expect a shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. New Mexico versus Michigan State. On Sunday, the New Mexico Lobos, seeded 10th in the NCAA tournament, will go head-to-head against the second-seeded Michigan State Spartans in the round of 32. This will be an exciting showdown between two teams that haven't crossed paths on the basketball court in recent years. With both squads coming off strong performances in the first round, Sunday's game has the potential to be a tightly contested battle. The number 10 New Mexico Lobos put together an impressive performance in their opening round game on Friday, showing a level of play that proved they belong in the tournament. From the opening tip to the final buzzer, they never trailed Marquette by more than 3 points at any stage, maintaining steady control of the game. Their offense was efficient, scoring at a rate of 1 point per possession. Donovan Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph led the charge, combining for 40 points, while True Washington and C.J. Nolan contributed an additional 23 points between them. With that victory, the Lobos earned a matchup against the number 2 Michigan State Spartans on Sunday. As for the Spartans, they handled business against Bryant, but it wasn't a cakewalk. The Bulldogs stayed competitive for a good portion of the game before Michigan State pulled away late to secure the win. This New Mexico team has the tools to go toe-to-toe with Michigan State. They have a strong mix of size, experience, and defensive intensity, as demonstrated by their neutral site victories over UCLA and USC earlier in the season. Defensively, they have stepped up in a major way down the stretch. Over their last 5 games, they rank in the top 20 in adjusted defensive efficiency and sit in the 98th percentile in defensive rating. Their ability to disrupt passing lanes and force turnovers has been a key strength, landing them in the top 25 in forced turnover rate over the past month. On top of that, they do an excellent job of preventing offensive rebounds and second chance points, something that will be crucial against a Michigan State team that thrives on crashing the offensive glass. For reference, New Mexico ranks 19th nationally in limiting opponent offensive rebounds this season and sits in the top 40 in both opposing second chance opportunities and conversion percentage, according to Haslametrics. Simply put, if New Mexico can hold its own on the boards, it will put itself in a strong position to make this a competitive game. Michigan State has the name recognition, the backing of a powerhouse conference, and a Hall of Fame coach in Tom Izzo. That alone will make them the favorite in this matchup. The Spartans have also been a solid team against the spread, covering at a 23-10-1 clip this season. However, the betting line doesn't give enough respect to a well-rounded New Mexico squad that ranks in the top 30 in offensive scoring. The Lobos were able to impose their will against Marquette in the first round, despite being a 4.5-point underdog. They managed to hold a strong Golden Eagles offense to just 41% shooting from the field, showing that their defensive effort is for real. New Mexico hasn't been a reliable team when it comes to covering the spread this season, particularly in recent weeks. That said, this isn't a team that's just happy to have made it this far. They're here to compete. Michigan State has been prone to offensive droughts at times, and that could be the opening New Mexico needs to keep this game within reach. If the Spartans hit one of their cold spells, the Lobos are more than capable of taking advantage. On paper, Michigan State is the more complete team, but one concern is their inexperience in the backcourt. Jeremy Fears and Jace Richardson will have their hands full against New Mexico's long, active perimeter defenders. The Lobos' aggressive defense could lead to a flurry of turnovers, which would make things difficult for the Spartans. Combine that with Michigan State's inconsistency from beyond the arc, and this matchup starts to look a little more favorable for New Mexico than the betting lines suggest. As our first pick for this matchup, the New Mexico Lobos to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. When it comes to the total, the numbers suggest a lower scoring affair. The under has hit at a combined 41-25-1 clip in games involving these two teams this season. Both the Lobos and Spartans are solid defensive squads, and New Mexico's ability to pressure opposing guards could disrupt Michigan State's rhythm on offense. Expect a scrappy, hard-fought game with both teams battling for every possession. With two elite coaches in Richard Pitino and Tom Izzo leading the way, this has the potential to be one of the most intriguing matchups of the tournament so far. One of Michigan State's strengths is its rebounding, particularly on the offensive end. However, New Mexico has been excellent at limiting second-chance opportunities, ranking 27th nationally in defensive rebounding. If the Lobos can continue that trend and keep the Spartans off the glass, they'll give themselves a real shot to keep this game close. From start to finish, expect a tense, grinded-out battle between the 2-seed and the 10-seed. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Oregon versus Arizona. The Oregon Ducks are gearing up to take on the Arizona Wildcats in what promises to be an exciting second-round matchup in the NCAA tournament. The Ducks, holding the 5th seed with a 25-9 record, will battle the 4th-seeded Wildcats, who stand at 23-12, on March 23rd. This highly anticipated game will take place at the Climate Pledge Center. Both teams are looking to keep their tournament dreams alive and punch their ticket to the next round. This showdown is part of the East Region's second round in the NCAA tournament. The stakes are high, as the winner of this game will move on to the Sweet 16, where they will face the winner of the Duke versus Baylor game. The Ducks, who recently made the jump from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, are coming into this matchup riding the momentum of a dominant 81-52 victory over the 12th-seeded Liberty Flames. Meanwhile, the Wildcats, who also left the Pac-12 and are now competing in the Big 12, are fresh off a commanding 93-65 win against the 13th-seeded Akron Zips. Both teams are in solid form, setting up an intriguing battle on the court. Oregon wasted no time in establishing control against Liberty, putting together an efficient offensive performance and knocking down 54.4% of their shots from the field. Their shooting accuracy and execution made it a comfortable win. On the other hand, Arizona had a bit of a sluggish start in the first half against Akron, but once they found their rhythm, they turned it up a notch. The Wildcats ended the game with an impressive 56.5% shooting percentage, proving they can be an offensive force when they settle in. If they bring that same energy into this game, the Ducks could have their hands full. According to Ken Palm rankings, Oregon plays at a much more controlled pace, sitting at 147th in adjusted tempo, whereas Arizona thrives in a faster style of play, ranking 55th in that category. The Wildcats will look to dictate the speed of this game, pushing the tempo and keeping the Ducks off balance. Oregon, however, has shown resilience all season, adjusting to different styles of play without any glaring weaknesses in their game plan. The Ducks will likely mix things up defensively to try and slow Arizona down. Statistically, Arizona has been the more explosive offensive team, averaging 82 points per game while allowing 72 points. Oregon, on the other hand, scores 76.4 points per game and gives up 70.4. A key battle to watch will be on the boards, where Arizona's Toba Waka, who is averaging 7.8 rebounds per game, will go head-to-head with Oregon's Nate Biddle, who is pulling down 7.5 rebounds per contest. Both teams have been playing well in recent weeks, each winning 3 of their last 4 games. However, Arizona has had a slight edge when it comes to efficiency, shooting the ball at a high clip. Over their last 3 games, the Wildcats have knocked down over 50% of their shots and a scorching 42% from three-point range. In comparison, Oregon has hit 45% of their field goals and just 34% from beyond the arc. Arizona has also been stronger from the free throw line, converting more than 77% of their attempts. Another advantage the Wildcats have is their ability to crash the offensive glass, pulling down more than 10 offensive rebounds per game, which gives them valuable second-chance opportunities. They've also taken good care of the ball, limiting turnovers and preventing easy transition buckets for their opponents. The Ducks, however, have struggled on defense when playing away from home, allowing more than 72 points per game. Their biggest vulnerability has been perimeter defense, which could be a major problem in this game since Arizona has been red hot from deep. If Oregon doesn't tighten up their defense, they might have trouble slowing down the Wildcat shooters. This game has all the makings of a tight contest, but Arizona's relentless pace could wear Oregon down as the game progresses. If the Wildcats can keep pushing the tempo and force Oregon into playing at a speed they're not comfortable with, they should be in a great position to take control. As our first pick for this matchup, the Arizona Wildcats to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Both teams are coming off games where their offenses were clicking, each putting up up over 80 points in the first round. That trend is likely to continue here, given their styles of play. Looking at the adjusted tempo rankings, the Ducks sit at 147th nationally with a 67.8 adjusted tempo, while the Wildcats rank 54th with a 70 adjusted tempo. This means both teams will likely be playing at a fairly fast pace, leading to plenty of scoring opportunities. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.